I find myself saying the words civil war more and more often. And I've had conversations with people who say that it's just not going to happen, and things like this have happened in the past, and maybe that's true. I'm 33. There are certainly people who are older than me who have seen things that are much more chaotic, like the civil rights era, for instance. We have a story here. Agents armed themselves amid fears of riots at Texas migrant station report. Why do I bring up civil war? It's because we're seeing a massive influx of people. Emergency levels, hundreds of thousands of people. We can't contain this group of people. What can the U.S. do? Well, we can deport people. It's very expensive. We can build a wall. We can fund more facilities. But in the end, the migrants keep coming. They're traveling far and wide from Africa, even from South America through Central America up to Mexico. It's not so much that they're looking for asylum. The asylum seekers, I think, are absolutely welcome. It's an issue of, first of all, a lot of people claiming asylum, they're like going from Honduras to Mexico to the U.S. They could stay in Mexico. They're going to keep coming. Where do you think this leads? What happens next? Well, there's the potential for riots and border agents that are arming themselves. What do you think the left is going to do if you see a bunch of CBP agents fighting off migrant riots? I seriously don't know what the answer is to a problem like this. It just looks like more dangerous escalation. I don't think this can be turned around. The Democrats don't want to get on board with deportation. They're, in fact, the opposite. The debates, they said, let them stay. Republicans say no way. So this divide is becoming so intense, we can't just either we're going to allow open borders or we're going to secure the borders and deport these people. But I'll tell you this, if nothing gets done, we're going to see mass riots, and then you're going to have propaganda videos of, migrants storming the barrier. Republicans will share. You'll have propaganda videos of CBP fighting, and hitting migrants. The left will share. And where do you think this brings us? Let's read the story. Before we get started, head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There is a PayPal option, a crypto option, a physical address. However, YouTube no longer suggests my videos in the same way they used to. So I ask you to suggest my video if you think they're good. Share them on social media. The story says, U.S. government inspectors reviewing an El Paso, Texas migrant station warned as far back as May that conditions were so bad that border agents were arming themselves for possible riots, according to a report. The findings in a report by the Department of Homeland Security's Office of Inspector General that NBC News obtained counters acting DHS Secretary Kevin McAleenan's assertion on Friday that news stories of poor conditions for children were unsubstantiated. The internal report said that during a May 7 tour, inspectors found that only 4 showers were available for 756 immigrants. More than half of the immigrants were being held outside, and those inside were kept in cells housing more than 5 times their capacity. A cell meant for a maximum of 35 people held 155 adult males with a single toilet and sink, NBC reported, citing the report. The crowding was so extreme that the men could not lie down and sleep. I understand, New York Post, if you're trying to fluff an article, but can you tell us about why they're arming themselves, please? So let's skip forward because I get it. We know they're bad. With limited access to showers and cleaning clothes, detainees were wearing soiled clothing for days and weeks. Yada, yada, yada. Meanwhile, border agents remained armed in holding areas amid concerns of possible unrest, the report said. Agents normally store their weapons in a lockbox when they enter holding areas, according to a DHS official. Medical concerns also mounted last month when agents reported taking sick migrants to the hospital 5 times a day, treating 75 people for lice in a single day, and trying to quarantine outbreaks of the flu, chickenpox, and scabies. Last week, lawyers allowed inside a Border Patrol facility nearby Clint, Texas, reported children taking care of other kids and living in soiled clothing. During a news conference Friday, okay, you know what? Okay, I get it. Listen. New York Post, you're trying to fluff the article up. Can you just tell us what the point is? The point I want to highlight is it's worrying to hear that conditions are bad. I get it. We know that the aid package has been signed. Ocasio-Cortez has sent a message by rejecting it. I went over all of this in my main channel video. The most important takeaway from this story is the headline, of which they don't seem to actually want to talk about, that agents are arming themselves. So I will stress that point. If we get to a situation where migrants start rioting, the left will side with the migrants, the right will side with CBP, and that's going to cause an escalation. This is an escalation. But we can move on from this because I want to address something else having to do with the toilet circumstance that I mentioned in the main channel. This is a story from BuzzFeed. Women held in Border Patrol custody say they were told to drink water from toilets. There was a toilet but no running water for people to drink. Joaquin Castro said, one of the women said she was told by an agent to drink water out of the toilet. I don't believe that. We can say it this way because I think the Daily Wire framed it like this. Ocasio-Cortez says, quote, comma, without evidence, comma, that X, Y, and Z, toilets. They did the without evidence thing because they always talk about that to Trump. There's no evidence, why make the claim? Here's the thing. This is the toilet. We can see it says agua potable. On the top is a water faucet, and then there's a toilet. If there was no running water, how would there be water in the toilet? Did they shut the water off and there was water still pooling in the toilet? I don't think somebody would drink that, nor would someone force them to drink it unless you actually want to make the claim that CBP was trying to torture these people, which I think is a bit conspiratorial and absurd. I think what's possible, according to CBP, one of the agents said, this was reported by the Washington Examiner, the woman didn't know how to operate the faucet, so she drank from the toilet. Also, is it possible that the women didn't understand that the top was a faucet and the bottom is a toilet, and so they referred to the whole unit as a toilet? So when asked, they said, we had to drink from the toilet? I think that's a big possibility. That Ocasio-Cortez said, what's going on? They said, they're making us drink from that toilet. And Ocasio-Cortez then says, oh my God, assuming she's talking about the basin and not the fountain. You see what I mean? So they say, they basically rehash what we already know. So let's skip over what, here's the tweet that I wanted to make sure I highlighted, because I didn't highlight this in the main video. She says, this was in fact the type of toilet we saw in the cell, except there was just one and the sink portion was not functioning. Ayanna Pressley smartly tried to open the faucet and nothing came out. So the women were told they could drink out of the bowl. But I'm curious, if the water isn't coming out of the top, why would there be water going into the bottom? I'm assuming it's the same system. I doubt these toilets, maybe I'm wrong, if you're a plumber, let me know, have two different water lines going into them. Obviously, there's like the toilet exodus path, but I assume water going in for the basin and the fountain is going to be the same pipe. How would one not work? And the toilet itself would have water. It just doesn't seem to make sense to me. Let's read what the conclusion is, though. They say Judy Chu from California described what the delegation saw as appalling and disgusting. In addition to some immigrant women telling members of Congress they didn't have access to running water, one epileptic woman said she had been unable to obtain medication for her condition. One woman said that Border Patrol agent told her if she wanted water to drink from the toilet. It keeps popping up, but I really doubt it. I want to move on from this. They say that during the tour Monday, a Border Patrol agent took a stealth selfie, smiling with Ocasio-Cortez in the background, which she did not find amusing, said Corbin Trent, the Congresswoman's communication director. One of the posts in the Facebook group included a story about Ocasio-Cortez touring the border facilities, and someone commented, "Send pics." She went around and asked agents if they thought it was amusing. Trent told BuzzFeed News she then asked for entry into one of the areas holding children, and she got it. Following publication of the ProPublica story, the Department of Homeland Security Office of the Inspector General launched an investigation into the existence of the Facebook group. We get it, and then there were some nasty posts. The point I wanted to make in this video, and it's kind of frustrating the way these stories are structured, but it is what it is. The left and the right are increasingly living in different worlds, and it's something I stressed in my video yesterday, where Vox ran a story saying that leftists should arm themselves to defend marginalized communities. We now see these stories. This is kind of an inversion to that. Border Patrol agents are arming themselves amid fears of riots at a Texas migrant station. Once again, we have a story about one faction being... now look, I get it. Border Patrol agents can be armed. They're law enforcement. It's unusual, though. If these people riot, if these CBP shoots, harms, or beats any one of these protesters, I assure you there will be riots across the country. It's reaching a tipping point where the left is so damn sure they want this migration. It's really funny, though, because these cities then, you've got cities on the border asking for help because there's too many migrants. You've got Trump sending migrants to these certain cities, or at least he was, and these cities get outraged. And now you're seeing this. There are so many people that potentials for riots are becoming possible. And I think this is the point where the left starts, we're like, look, Vox is saying leftists get armed. What do you think is going to happen next? That's what I keep asking. If Ocasio-Cortez says people are drinking out of toilets, these are concentration camps, and then people are being told to take up arms. I can only see this going in one direction. But this isn't a story, I think, that warrants much more beyond this. And I'll stress, I apologize. The New York Post kind of fluffed this one up, talking about the facilities instead of the actual issue. So, it is what it is. But stick around. I got some more segments coming up in a few minutes, and I will see you shortly.